Okay, welcome to our webinar on academic standing issues. What are my options? So it's a webinar presented to you by the two student unions, the RSU and CESAR, as well as the Ombudsperson's office and student learning support. So we'll just introduce ourselves. Jose, would you like to go first? We'll just go down and
Yes,
introduce ourselves in this list.
yes, of course. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Jose Gonzalez. I'm one of the two advocates that the university has. Well, we work for the unions. I work specifically for the Ryerson Student Union. I don't work for the university. I am the Student Issues and Advocacy Coordinator. I'm working remotely. If you need to contact me, the best, you can send me an email. My contact information you will have access at the end of the presentation. I'll also put a link in the messages. If you need to book an appointment with me, just go to the website. I put the same link. Book an appointment there, and I will be happy just to help you with academic issues that you have, or in some cases non-academic issues too. So, and I also will be a source if there's something that is outside my scope of work. I would be happy just to refer you with different services through the university. We are here just to help you, and I'm very glad you make it today. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lyndall Musselman. I'm the Student Rights Coordinator with CESAR, which is the Continuing Education Student Association of Ryerson. And like Jose mentioned, I'm employed by the student union and not the university. And I'm one of the two advocates for students on campus along with Jose.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Kwame Addo. I'm the Ombudsperson for Ryerson University. And like Jose and Lindo, we're not employees of the university, but we are an independent organization that is tasked with assisting students when they have issues with the university. It could be anything from academic appeals and things of those nature. I'll be speaking a little bit more about what our office does later on in the program, and my contact information is also indicated at the end of the program. Thank you for coming this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so happy to see that everyone is in attendance. My name is Chris Bertram, the Academic Success Facilitator. I am employed with Ryerson University through Student Life and Learning Support. There were two main programs that are under my portfolio. The first one is Get Clear. This is for students on academic probation. And the second one is Fresh Start. This is for students who have an RTW status, which I will talk about more in detail throughout this presentation. And if you do have any questions on Fresh Start, Get Clear, or even learning strategies, my email contact will be provided for you at the end. Thank you so much.
Great. So we'll move on to give you a brief overview of the different academic standings at Ryerson. So one really primary kind of rule or standard that you should be aware of is that to graduate from Ryerson, you must have a minimum cumulative grade point average, that's a CGPA, of 1.67. So that's a very important kind of threshold to just know and work towards if you're not meeting that kind of goal. So at Ryerson, there are just a couple programs actually that require higher standards, and they have a standing variation, and some of their courses have grading variations. So that means that, for example, in nursing, you would have to get a 63% in order to pass that course. Instead of the kind of regular old 50%, which is the norm in most other courses to have a passing grade. And you should know that besides some of the standings listed here, there's also clear academic standing. So that's where all students begin when you start your program, when you're new to Ryerson. And then when there's some issues with your academic performance, if you're not meeting some of the standards to graduate and are struggling academically, you could find yourself in academic probation. So that just means that there's basically a flag, like a bit of a warning coming from the university to say, hey, we're worried about your performance. They'll ask you to sign off on a probationary contract, which is a very important document that you should be familiar with. You should really know the criteria set out in your probationary contract. And if you haven't already at this point had a meeting with your program representative, it could be your academic advisor, student affairs coordinator, or just a program administrator, there should be someone that will set up a meeting with you to answer questions. So of course, everyone is working remotely due to the pandemic. So I imagine that many program coordinators are using Google Meetings or Zoom as means to consult with students to explain probationary contracts. If that hasn't happened for you, be sure to email your point person at your program to ask about it, because there is a rule that I think was sent out to all students that were on probationary contracts that you should have signed off on your contract before January 25th, which is a week today. It's also the appeal deadline. But yes, so just make sure that you review your probationary contract very closely and ask whatever questions you have to your program support person as soon as possible, so you can move forward in the semester and proceed with all your coursework and hopefully go on to get a clear standing. And then required to withdraw. So RTW, this is a standing where you maybe last semester in fall 2020 were on a probationary contract and you unfortunately were unsuccessful in one of your courses or just didn't meet some of the standards stipulated there, and you've fallen into RTW. Also, if you had, I think, previously been, let's see, or basically there's a rule like if you're, oh, it's on the other slide. Wait, we're going to get there. We're going to go to the next slide shortly to talk more about RTW. So just hold on RTW, but then permanently program withdrawn. So PPW, this is an unfortunate academic standing. It's the most serious. It's when students either have been RTW already and applied for reinstatement and were back admitted to the program again, but maybe struggled with some courses. And then if you didn't kind of keep up with the regulations, that you would have fallen into PPW if you've been RTW before. And then also students can be PPW if you fail a required course for the third time. So you, in that scenario, could go from a clear standing right to PPW, and it is kind of alarming. Some students aren't aware of this this rule. It comes from Ryerson's policy 46, which is the grade and it's like the academic standing policy, basically, that outlines all the kind of details and definitions of these academic standings and grading system. So yeah, and also for students from a program with a standing variation, you may only have you would only have 2 attempts at required courses. And if you are unsuccessful in your second try, if you're in a nursing program, for example, you would fall into being permanently program withdrawn as well. And I encourage students with PPW standings to seriously think about appealing your grade, because as you would, maybe assume by the name of this standing, it's permanent. It is something that would be on your transcript. And it is a bit of a barrier to being able to get into other programs and maybe go on to graduate school if that's something that you were hoping to do. So think about appealing if you're PPW, or think about, there's a workshop that will advertise in a couple of slides from now. Just know that there's another helpful session you can attend to find out more about your options. So more on RTW. So it's when a student may have a CGPA of less than 1, except for students in their first ever semester at Ryerson. So if you just began last semester, you would just be on probation at this stage if your CGPA was less than 1. And then if you had a term GPA below 1.67 while on a probationary contract. And then the last point here is just if there was another criteria on your probationary contract that you unfortunately violated or weren't able to meet in the previous semester. So those are sort of the reasons for why you would become RTW. Does anyone of the panelists want to add anything here? Otherwise, I'll move on to the next slide, which I believe is about Fresh Start.
I think you covered everything, Linda.
Okay, perfect. Oh, sorry, more of me talking again. So RTW options. So number 1, you would have to take the 12-month, so a full 1-year period away from your studies. And you're supposed to reflect on, is this the right program for you? What are maybe some barriers to my learning and my success? And how am I going to improve going forward? So just know that if you were assigned to RTW as of the end of fall 2020, you could apply for reinstatement that would take place winter 2022 or later. And just know your deadline for applying for reinstatement would be December 1st of 2021. And then so number 2, think about transferring into another program. And just know that at Ryerson, transferring really means applying for admission to the other program. So if you're curious about qualifications, requirements for getting into another program at Ryerson, really talk with admissions. They're the experts on what is needed and when the deadlines are and stuff like that. So be in touch with the admissions office if you're going on that route. And then finally, the third option to be aware of is the Fresh Start program, which Chris will explain more now.
Thank you so much. So if you do choose to apply to the Fresh Start program, again, you must be RTW to participate. And not everyone who is RTW can participate. So at this point, if you do have the status, my recommendation is for you to speak with your program advisor about this. I provided the link in the chat if you don't know who your program advisor is. And another recommendation, if you don't know who your program advisor is after this webinar, please find the name of who you should contact. This person will be your best friend in terms of providing you with information on RTW probationary status or provide you with any recommendations of what courses to take. Again, if you do choose the Fresh Start program route, you must sit out for only 1 semester. So instead of 12 months prior with the other options, the Fresh Start program option is you sit out for only 1 semester after receiving your RTW status, and summers count. And the link, I will also put it in the chat. In order to be recommended for the Fresh Start program, it's also department specific. The deadline to apply for Fresh Start is May 2021. For May 2021 is March 19th. So just to remind you, If you want to apply for Fresh Start for May 2021, the deadline is March 19th, 2021. And in Fresh Start, you enroll in the program that I run, which is the Fresh Start Strategies course. This is a pass-fail course where I help you set your goals. We talk about very important things such as time management, learning success tools and strategies, how to speak with your professor, how to eliminate procrastination, etc. And with this course, you can also take up to 2 credit courses. And upon successful completion of both the 2 credit courses and the course that I run that is pass-fail, the next semester you could take up to 4 credits in that semester. And upon completion, successful completion of both semesters, you are guaranteed reinstatement in your program. So that's amazing news. Thank you.
That's my section now. So if you decide, I mean, you keep in mind another option that you have. If you are RTW, PPW, you have academic standing issues, you can start an appeal. And there are 2 types of academic appeals, I would say. One, it will be the standing appeal, and the other one, it will be the gray appeal. So we always recommend that you appeal if you have academic standing issues, you go for the 2 appeals, the standing and the grade. So in order for you to file an appeal, you need to choose one of the grounds for appeals, those ones that are in policy 168. And basically they are the same grounds, and there's only gray appeal has one that doesn't apply to standing, but the rest are the same. And those grounds, you can read them there. So extenuating circumstances is the first one, that applies for both gray and standing. Prejudice, again, applies for both gray and standing. Procedural error applies for both gray and standing. And then the last one, course management, that one only applies if you file your gray appeal. Again, so if you have academic standing issues, go for both academic standing appeal and gray appeal. Okay, we can move please to the next slide. Thank you. Keep in mind that we wanna, this is just an overview about appeal. So if you about academic standing, so tomorrow we want to have a workshops, and we will be covering about how to write a strong appeal. I really recommend if you can just make it tomorrow. So again, you can, the link is there, all the information is there, and it will be via Zoom. So keep in mind that the deadline to appeal is next Monday, January 25th, 4 p.m. So for both the grade and the standing appeal, the deadline is firm. So if for any reason you know that you are unable to meet the deadline, either because there's a lot going on, or you still recovering, you know, from whatever, you know, either a very compelling personal situation, or you were simply sick and you still there's something very, very compelling, you can contact your program director for the standing appeal and to ask for the extension. And for the gray appeal, it will be just, if the course is a required course, of course, it will go to your program director from your home program. And if the gray belongs to another department that is not your home program, just contact that person. Unless you receive in writing that that you are being granted extension, the deadline is firm. It's not sufficient just to send the email. You need to have the response in advance and say, not a problem, sure, we will give you X days. So in the email, just explain why you need the extension. Propose a day, you know, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Be reasonable, whatever you think you need. And provide some if you have some supporting documents, right? If that would be ideal, because they will like to ask why. If you don't have it, you can explain why you don't have it, or just the reason probably is a reason that you don't have. So just keep in mind that that date. it is important also. We will talk tomorrow on the workshop. Tomorrow again, we will talk about how you can increase your chances just to be successful. I mean, we will be talking about a few things. We will be expanding more about the grounds for appeal, the steps that you need to take when you file the appeal, informal resolutions. We'll be talking about the supporting documents. We'll be talking about the remedies for the gray and standing appeal. So I really recommend it. Recommend if you can, if you have chances to make it tomorrow, that would be great. And do we have one more slide, or that's all? Okay, now I pass it on to Kwame.
Good evening, everyone. As I said earlier, my name is Kwame Addo. I'm the Ombudsperson for Ryerson. And I've been in the position a little over 18 months, having taken over the post in June 2019. So just a little bit about our office. The Ombuds office here at the university was established in 1997, which makes it 24 years old this year. And the office and the staff operate independently from the university, as I mentioned previously, which is a very important thing to remember. So my staff and I that work in our office are not employees of the university, and our funding comes from a student levy that is applied to the fees that you pay. So there's three main pillars upon which our office has been created. The first is independence, which I've already touched upon. And independence from the university allows us to carry out our role without any undue influence or interference from the university administration. And that's a very important feature of our office, because there are going to be times when we disagree with the university and we don't want to be hindered or preventing from taking whatever action the office may feel is appropriate. And this can be a little harder to do when the body that you oversee is also your employer. Two, confidentiality. We conduct our work in private. So no one can look at our case files, and will not discuss your information or your identity with the university unless you give us permission to do so. And the terms of reference for our office, which are posted on our website, state that our complaint files shall be for the exclusive use of the Ombudsperson and be accessible only to the Ombudsperson and members of the staff of the Office of the Ombudsman. So nobody can get access to our information. So that's an important thing to remember. And then thirdly, impartiality. What I mean by this is that we're not an apologist for the university, nor are we advocates for students. We don't have a vested interest in the outcome of a complaint. We're only interested in ensuring that individuals are treated fairly. And so just as an aside, treating people fairly doesn't mean that we treat everyone the same. Sometimes you need to make accommodations to place individuals on an equal footing. So we're talking about equity. So how we work, we can look into complaints against the university from current students, former students, or individuals who have concerns about the administration process. And most importantly, our services are free of charge. We're not authorized to take any complaints from faculty, and most of the work that we do is done informally, that is, without an investigation. We'll look for opportunities to resolve cases when we can, and we'll provide students with conflict coaching and referrals to help you access the information you need to address your concern. And we're an office of last resort. And what do I mean by an office of last resort? It's the guiding philosophy of all ombudsman's offices. And generally, what that means is that before our office will intervene in a case, the student will need to have attempted to resolve the complaint on his or her own first. For example, talking to the professor or initiating an appeal if one is available. So if attempts at informal resolution by our office are unsuccessful, and we still feel that there's a fairness issue, the office will conduct what we call a fairness review or an investigation to determine if the office has acted, the university has acted appropriately. And once our review is completed, if we find that there's an issue that needs to be addressed, we can make recommendations to remedy the situation. So an ombudsman only has the power of recommendation. He or she can't order the university to act, unlike a court when it issues its decision. So recommendations are only reserved for those cases and situations where our review has uncovered sufficient evidence to support such a finding. One other aspect of the role that we perform is providing advice or information to the university community. So one example is the information that's found on our website, ryerson.ca/ombudsperson. And the website contains information about the various policies, the appeal processes, and their related forms, as well as we have an FAQ section to assist students. And the office is also involved in training and providing advice to the university staff and faculty. So right now, as I believe Lyndall had mentioned, our office is working remotely, but in normal circumstances, we're located in Oakham House on the second floor. And so we're working remotely, but we can still be reached by phone, 416-979-5000. And that's our general intake line. Alternatively, you can reach us through email at ombuds@ryerson.ca. And our emails and phone lines are monitored daily, and so we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And we're also able to conduct video calls through Google Meets, or if a student prefers a modified face-to-face interaction. I'm happy to answer any questions through the chat, and you can also send questions that you may have, or if you wish to discuss a particular case or situation that you have, you can send me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you.
Thanks, Kwame. And I just put a link to your website in the chat for folks to be able to just click and access that info. Great. And so here's a workshop that I think may be relevant to some of you attendees. It's called, I can't see the top weirdly right now. Like maybe it's academic setbacks. Yeah, navigating setbacks. What's next? A session for students with required to withdraw or permanent program withdrawal standing. Yeah, this would be useful. The facilitator, her name is Daniela. Oh shoot, I don't have her full name super accessible to me at this moment. I'll put her name in the chat shortly, but she is a counselor from the Center for Center for Student Development and Counseling. Yes, that is the Department of Ryerson that is running this session. And it's a very useful resource for students. If you ever feel overwhelmed and feel that you need to talk to someone, you as a Ryerson student should be able to have access to counseling through that center. I'll put a link to their website here. I do actually have that one super handy, so I'm putting that in the chat right now for folks. Yeah, so the session is happening on Wednesday, January 27th. So coming up later next week. And then I will put the link to register in the chat. It was a very long announcement file that they sent out, which I think was intended for social media scrolling and didn't really fit into the slide for this presentation very well. So I had to cut things off. Anyway, yeah, so check out that helpful session. And then, oh yes, here is our contact information. So at this stage, we are really kind of wrapping up the formal presentation for you all. It is a brief session, but we always like to make ourselves available to answer questions if folks have them. And interestingly, no one's used the Q&A. No one's asked a question yet through that Q&A function in Zoom, but that's okay. Another thing that we could do if attendees are willing to participate in a kind of verbal way is that we could grant you speaking privileges. If you're more comfortable speaking verbally rather than maybe typing out something in the Q&A, we can see how it goes. But yes, here's everyone's email addresses for all the panelists. And just know that email is really the best way to communicate with people at Ryerson these days. I know some people might have a preference for talking on the phone, but these days we're all working pretty much remotely, like working from our homes and things like that. So we're not able to super kind of like speedy, like check our voicemail. Like actually, I'm realizing I haven't checked my voicemail in my office on campus since like last week. And it's a busy time. So I should probably, you know, maybe first thing tomorrow, I'll check my voicemail messages. I'll make a mental note to do that. But email is just much more efficient in terms of getting a response. So, and then you also have a paper trail. You have a record that you've communicated and reached out to someone. So email is your best friend. Email is really helpful. Okay, so panelists, we're basically at the end. The next slide is just some like topics for discussion. Oh, and I do see here, so in the Q&A, there is a question, and I realized just a few minutes ago that panelists, attendees cannot actually see the question apparently in the Q&A until we answer it, I think. I think answered questions are visible and accessible to the attendees, but not in this way that we see it at first. Does that sound accurate to other people's experiences? Yeah. Okay. So maybe here we're getting some questions coming in. So I'll start reading out the first one and we'll answer them live at this stage, and maybe we'll see if we can answer some in writing potentially. But here, we'll go with them in chronological order. So the first one here says, yeah, they're not sure which category they fall into. I failed a course, but upon seeking help from my professor, I was denied an opportunity to further discuss my options. So that informal resolution sounds like it didn't work out for this student. What would be my next steps? So probably preparing a formal grade appeal at this stage, because the appeal deadline, as Jose mentioned, is 1 week today, right? So now would be the time just to write things out, gather your documentation, really investigate the formal appeal process, and make a good submission and see what happens. I think that that's often what happens, especially at this time in like the beginning of a semester. Many professors are just like, I'm done, sorry, no more consideration. And they just kind of tell students to appeal. It is very common. Okay, so we've answered.
Sorry if I may, Linda, just to answer also that question, it's quite hard, I mean, for me to understand which ground you should rely, because there's not much details, right, in the question. Yeah. But anyway, so what I will encourage you is just, if you're not sure about the grounds, a good start right now, as I said, the grounds, you can find it in policy 168. You can Google policy 168 are there. A shortcut to that, if you don't want to just read the whole policy and identify, you can just look at the appeal information package that Lyndall and we have in our respective websites. You can just go CESAR and read the information from there, or the RSU. I mean, we explain, we listed the grounds, and then there's a checklist also. You can say, okay, if this happened, and then at the end, that can help assess if what kind of grounds your grade or standing appealing falls, and then you can speak tomorrow to us. I mean, you can review. That will be the best thing that I will do. Take a look to the appeal information package, and then just come present, the facts, and say, this is the grounds that I'm planning to file. Any comments? I mean, just go for there. Sorry, no, that's all that I want to say.
Oh, no worries. That's helpful. That's good. So thanks. We've completed that question. And also I want to say to that student, please attend our workshop tomorrow at noon, because it's exclusively on the appeal process. So that would be very relevant to some of your questions. And then maybe panelists, I'm seeing some students maybe are using the chat function too. So anyway, I wonder what would be the best order to follow here in terms of responding?
I can jump into the next one if you want, Indol.
Which next one? The
Could
the
someone
yellow.
elaborate on what the new extenuating circumstances for appeal covers, please?
Oh, sure. Okay, you can do that one. Sounds good.
Yeah, so yes, you correctly indicated. So basically, just to make things easier, now starting this semester, I mean, we're starting with policy 168, right? It starts in effect in this semester. And then in the past, in previous semester, we have something that was called health grounds and compassionate grounds. So these basically now they decided that they will, they will make it one. So because in reality, they just go hand in hand, right? So now what they have in common is that these extenuating circumstances, you can include something that was health and something that was probably no health, but it has an impact. There was something, an occurrence that it was beyond your control, that it was unforeseen. Those kind of the main elements that they will be in the appeal. Sorry, my dad is just here. Yeah, so you will be, if there's something, health is very clear, right? Let's say compassionate. A family member was sick and all of a sudden you need to just help that individual, that family member. And or you were dealing for a personal family or legal issue or a divorce, somebody in your family or yourself, or something that really affected you, right? Something really compelling. So even if it was not related to health, but it impacted you because it was unforeseen and beyond your control, and you believe that is relevant and it has a huge impact on you, you can include that extenuating circumstance. And I hope that answered the question.
Great. Hi, Jose's little one. Anyway, so let's see. Is there any important information here for those who are, sorry, I can't see all of this question there. Where did it go? Is there any important information here for those who are not blank? Okay. I don't know what you were meaning at the end of that statement there. Maybe you could try clarifying your question and asking it again. That would probably be good, because I don't really know how to answer your question. So, okay. Oh, one thing that I want to just follow up, maybe if, oh, Jose, if there's any, oh, here about there's a, chances of being reinstated, or if anyone else, any of the panelists that want to take on the next question, I'm just going to go find that link.
Yes, I can take on that one. So the next question, somebody's asking, excuse me, what are the chances of being reinstated after a PPW standing? So now, I mean, there's you can keep in mind policy 46, right? That's the policy that talks academic standing. So there's 3 ways that you can become PPW. I'm just kind of reviewing quickly. So if I guess it depends what really happened there, right? I mean, it can happen because this is you can become PPW because one, you failed your probationary contract, you already been, you become RTW, and another one you're dealing with, you fail a course 3 times. So chances are, if you can be reinstated, but you need to have a strong appeal. I mean, I would say you can. One of the good things now is the policy 160A. The standard of proof is quite low, actually. It's not that really hard. It's just on a balance of probabilities, right? Once you choose your grounds for appeal and then you explain clearly everything, you show that you took the steps and then you supported whatever ground that you're choosing, I think you have a chance. When it comes to PPW, I think in addition to those grounds, you will need to satisfy, in my opinion, the decision maker. Why, why this time you will be successful? Just think about it, just common sense. If I fail 3 times already, why at this point did you just give me another chance? I mean, well, if something happened beyond my control, which was an external circumstances, and I demonstrate that, and then I also explain that had this event wouldn't occur, I wouldn't just be able just to successfully pass the course, and that was not really my fault. Then it seems like a fair and reasonable, but it seems like I guess you need to explain, be clear what happened, and ensure, right, that you have let's say if I'm dealing with a mental health condition right now, and then I didn't have a system in place before, and because my condition is just new. So what I want to do, I want to take proactive steps now. Perhaps I want to talk now to my doctor and say, I have a panic attack in the final exam. And that was the first time. And that really kind of, I didn't have a panic attack before. I unfortunately was in probation, and I put a lot of energy. So you want to make sure whatever happened to you doesn't happen again. Have a strong, academic plan to succeed, right? And to prevent and communicate that. So I guess if you cover those sections, I will yes. If you cover those sections, and then you ensure that if they give you a chance, just for just to be restated, that this time you will be successful, right?
I just want to flag though, right, that this is a PPW situation. So the student would need to appeal their standing because they can't be reinstated with PPW. It's only RTW that you could apply for reinstatement. Just to flag that. It's kind of an important feature of PPW standing. But like what you were describing, Jose, it totally applies to the appeal process as well, right? To make the case to be allowed back into the program. So to appeal being PPW. Okay. Jose, are you still there? Maybe you're frozen. Anyway, we've answered that question now, I think. So I'll mark it as done. And hopefully when I click done, attendees can see the actual dialogue. I don't know about that. So attendees, I hope you can see.
Lendl,
Oh,
I think
Kwame?
if they click on answered in the question and answer, it shows the trail. I think
So hopefully attendees can
Yeah.
see that, because that's the thing. Like we have different views than they do, because when it's just straight up questions, apparently the questions themselves are not visible to attendees. I guess that's the distinction. Anyway, so the next question here. Oh, and also just to verbally acknowledge, I put the link to the registration for the Navigating Setbacks What's Next session hosted by the Center for Student Development and Counseling in the chat. So you can find it there to get signed up for that helpful session next week. Okay. Yeah, so this next question, and hopefully Jose joins us again. He did have to, I guess, leave us for a moment. Hopefully he can return. What if I'm retaking the 2 classes I failed and pass them with good marks on my first retake? Will probation just disappear? So in terms of retaking courses at Ryerson, that's a great thing that you brought up. Thanks for flagging that. At Ryerson, when you repeat a course, the most recent grade that you earned is what will be calculated towards your CGPA. So repeating courses can be a really good way to improve your GPA. So, but then just about the last bit about your question, will probation just disappear? So it doesn't just disappear, no. So basically on your academic record, whenever you fall in, when your standing changes, generally, it will be noted on your academic record. And maybe someone else can confirm this for me, on your transcript. I'm actually not sure if academic standing, such as being on probation, is noted on transcript. I think so. Does anyone else know, like Kwame or Chris?
I'm not entirely sure, Linda, whether or not it is, because if you think about something like an academic misconduct notification, that disappears from your transcript once you graduate. I don't know if it's something similar for the others one, but if I had to guess, I would think that the changes in your standing might appear on your transcript.
I know that all recorded attempts of the course is on your transcript, and when someone's reading it, I think the assumption of what the standing was before is specified with the amount of times you took the course. But with regard to a list of all the standings that you've had, I'm not sure if that's listed either.
Yeah, it's definitely on an academic record because that is like visible and accessible to students through their RAMS account. And I've like navigated those with students before, but it's not been a process that I'm super familiar with actually looking at a formal official transcript. So that's a good question. But basically, you're assigned the standing of probation for, like, say this semester, you're on your contract, right? And like the way to get out of probation is to meet all of the criteria specified, and to get to clear standing. That's how it gets resolved in a sense. And then you get to move forward. And then what would happen in an alternative example is if you're not successful meeting your criteria set out in your contract, then you would become required to withdraw. So that's sort of the flow of what could happen if you're on probation right now. And just in terms of retaking courses while you're on probation, that can be useful, but you just need to be careful. So maybe if it's a really challenging course and it's required, make sure to take like a reduced course load potentially, so that you can focus and really be able to dedicate time to that course that you struggled with already once before, because you really want to make sure that you will be successful. Because as I was speaking about in terms of academic standings, you have a limited amount of attempts at required courses. So you don't want to kind of burn through those attempts. And so for most students in programs at Ryerson, you have only 3 attempts at required courses. So you also don't want to be throwing your money away, right? When you're paying a lot of tuition fees. So just do what you can to have a very manageable and comfortable course load. Right, it's a pandemic too, so like it's just nice to be considerate of yourself and kind of take a lighter course load where possible. Okay, so I think we've covered that one. Does anyone want to take on this next question? The one I have noted here is from 5:45 p.m.
Well, I think we've discussed this issue pretty much. So the process for filing a PPW appeal would be the same. You're going to be having the appeal seminar tomorrow, so I would encourage this individual to attend, and also look at the guide on your respective websites. But in terms of the success rate, it really depends on the quality of your appeal. So as Jose was saying before, you really need to give some thought as to why you're going to be successful if you're allowed, if your appeal is granted, and really explain the circumstances that led to your PPW and how you're going to overcome that. So it's got to be a quality appeal. It's got to be convincing. And if there were circumstances that, as Jose said, were beyond your control, maybe an illness, or perhaps there was some personal tragedy that you had to deal with, it's important to clarify that, make it clear that that had the impact on your ability to be successful. And now you have the building blocks or the supports in place that will make you successful moving forward.
Great, thanks, Kwame. Okay, so yeah, we've answered that one. Oh, and Jose's back. Welcome back, Jose.
Thank you. Sorry, I just, for some reason, I just got disconnected.
Welcome back.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so this is the last question in the Q&A. Okay, so it says, for example, oh, I guess it's related to the previous question. So that was, again, just to clarify, a question around an academic standing situation. And about appealing. So for example, if my standing appeal were to be unsuccessful, can I change my career at Ryerson and start taking courses in the summer through Chang School to get a head start on a different program? Also, if my appeal is successful, what standing do I go back to? So whenever you're doing a standing appeal, your remedy that you're going to put forward is, mostly, unless you're dealing with failing a required course a third time situation and being PPW. If you're RTW and you're appealing, and if you're appealing your PPW standing for GPA reasons, you're going to ask to be reinstated in your program back on a probationary contract, because that's just like a very reasonable way to approach it. Because like if you've already struggled, you've been on probation before, and you've run into these barriers, it's just like very reasonable to just say, I'll put me back on another probationary contract, and then it sets out the standards that you're going to need to meet in order to be successful. And then, oh yeah, the question talked about if you were unsuccessful, right? So yeah, you can change your path, your program direction at Ryerson for sure. It just is something you would need to talk to the admissions office about, so that you can understand what the expectations are and what the requirements are for being actually admitted into that other program. Because keep in mind, it's a competitive system. You'd be competing with all the other students applying for admissions. And you can enroll in Chang School courses to try to improve your academic record, improve your kind of like your academic situation and your prospects for getting into another program. But just know that there's actually not a guarantee that those other courses will for sure be accepted into or transferred into whatever degree program you get into. There's just some discretion around that, but it can be helpful. It's just something you should explore. So talk to some of the experts in the admissions office. And also there is an academic advisor through the Chang School. His name is Dave Dalrymple. I can put his information in the chat. He gives academic advice to Chang School students that can be in situations like this of trying to upgrade and get admitted into specific programs. And you can, in the meantime, complete certificate programs, which is something you can put on your resume and can be helpful with employment and be at least something that you could attain maybe more kind of expeditiously than getting into another degree program. Yeah. So did we answer that question?
Just one other thing, like policy 46 also says that if a student's PPW, they can apply to a different program at the university for the fall semester of the following calendar year. So you can apply to like a different program at the university outside of the Chang School if that was what you're hoping to do.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just, yeah, those deadlines for admissions that you'd need to be aware of and everything. But yeah, that's definitely something to explore. Okay, so we did get another question here. Would someone else mind taking this on? I have to follow up with a student through the chat function. So I don't know, Jose or someone else. Oh, it's a Chang School question. Oh, that's kind of my specialty. Let's just see. Is it possible to take a certificate program in Chang School and then apply for the degree program? So yes, it is. It's a possibility. So high school will not be looked at first and foremost if you already have post-secondary education. They will look at it because like that is usually like a kind of requirement for admissions into any degree program, but they're gonna like first look at your most recent grades and your performance from the most recent time frame. Hopefully that answers that one. I guess we made it through the questions. I said I would get the contact information for Dave Dalrymple, so I'm just gonna get that.
I put it in already.
Oh, you did? Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no
Oh,
problem.
cool. Great. That's helpful. Amazing. Thanks so much, Chris. Okay. Any other questions? We're still recording. I was gonna stop recording after the formal presentation, but this is all useful kind of Q&A stuff. Any other comments from the panelists? Maybe we could wrap up a little bit early with this session. No comments? Okay.
Yeah, I'll say something. Again, know who your program advisor is after this. Just reach out to them, say hello, send them a Happy New Year's email, and just build that rapport with them. And when you get to know them, you'll have that rapport to answer any questions that you do have on your RTW status or probationary status. And later on in the future, in your university career, you could have that point of contact. And so I highly recommend that.
I just want to say that thanks very much for coming, but keep in mind there's a lot of really good resources here. So, you know, if you are unable to speak to Jose directly or you can't speak to Lyndall directly because they're too busy, feel free to contact our office. We'll try and assist you as best you can. We have to, because we're an office of last resort, we can't give you like specific details of help you craft your appeal or anything like that, but we can answer general questions about your appeal and appeal process, and we can definitely provide you to appropriate resources if you have questions that fall outside of our authority.
And for myself, I just want to thank you also for attending the workshop. Don't be discouraged, right? Don't let all these fears. I know this is a very stressful time, and now taking courses, you know, remotely, and also personal circumstances such as the pandemic, and probably with all the ramifications, I'm sure that it hasn't made life easier for everyone. So just make sure that you have all the resources. You know, we remember that we are here. We are just, you know, we are just here to serve you, right? And there are different services in the university. And we all should just be together just to help you and see you succeed. And, you know, in whatever studies you're taking, knock on the door, ask for help, don't give up, right? Let's want to keep positive. Don't be, if there's fears, just reach out for help, and try to identify who's the person that you can get that help. So I'm here, and personally, whatever I can do to help you, I'm always, you know, away, just a click away. I might take, you know, 1 or 2 days, or sometimes 3 days, sometimes. But I will get back to you for sure. I will get back to you. Try to hopefully, you know, if everything goes if you put the time for the appeal, your chances they significantly will increase. And feel free just to let us know. Sometimes I know we just see students ones that if the appeals are not granted, or feel free, you just say, hey, it's granted or something. We are, the most important thing is that you continue going, you're moving forward with your studies, and that you learn, that you have the value you have, that your experience here at the university is going to make it the most enjoyable as possible, even during hard times. We wish you the best, and by all means, remember tomorrow 12 o'clock we're going to have the Zoom meeting. If you have some questions, my best advice for now, read the appeal information package, so it's easier for you just to once you complete your appeal. I'm sure there might be some questions after reading, and doesn't become the information that we will provide tomorrow overwhelming, because we use the 2 hours, and I know it can be too much, especially for those ones that never started an appeal. It will kind of ease things tomorrow. So thank you for coming, and so all my best wishes for you and your families.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, attendees. Thank you, panelists, so much.